Thank you, Mike, for doing that. So as you just were notified, this webinar, as all of ours, is being recorded, and we will post it by tomorrow at some point on the Coaches Resource page, as well as send you out the link and the slides that you will see this evening. With that being said, hopefully everyone is here for the bowling pre-competition webinar for our state championships coming up this Sunday. With us tonight, myself, Steve Bennett, Senior Director of Competitions here at Special Olympics Maryland, Rich Domros, member of our management team and our head official for the regionals at Gaithersburg, as well as our state championships, Mike Sarnowski, our Vice President of Sports Department here at Special Olympics Maryland, and I am very pleased to announce our new sports director, Elizabeth Kramer, is joining us tonight. She started today, ladies and gentlemen, so please hold off on any questions directly to Elizabeth. Not sure she'll be up to speed on everything she'll need to know for bowling, but she will be joining us this weekend at the state championships and getting to meet all of you guys. So make sure you have a chance at check-in or other times throughout the day to introduce yourself to Elizabeth. We're very pleased to have her. She's from the area, from Towson University, graduated there with sports management. And Elizabeth, if you want to unmute and just say hello and anything else you'd like to add to what I just said.
Hi, as Steve just mentioned, I graduated from Towson in 2018. Due to COVID, I had to take some jobs in healthcare, but I'm excited to get back into sport and kind of use my degree. And I'm excited to kind of get started with the bowling championships.
Very good. We are very pleased to have you. And again, I know today was a lot of information for Elizabeth, a lot of paperwork and HR stuff to get done. But again, very excited to have Elizabeth join us. And I'm sure you guys will all get to know her throughout the year and whatever, as we, many of us wear multiple hats, and she will take on many sports other than bowling. So with that being said, we will go ahead and get into the slide deck and the information for tonight. So we'll go over the basic schedule for the state championships, basically the same as what we had at the regional tournaments. The COVID reminder, a little bit of information regarding the facility, the overall schedule again, on-site registration, that process. And then Rich will talk on some highlights in regards to rules and competition notes. Then we'll go right into the general information. And then at the end, if there is time available, we will see if there's any questions that you guys have that we can help you with. So with that, we'll go ahead and hear on to the next one. So as a reminder, again, we're following the state jurisdiction, state mandates, if you will, any restrictions the state has, or the county, or any local jurisdictions, as well as the venues who are hosting our events. That's been in place since spring, and that's been extended through Special Olympics Maryland, all the entities who are the decision makers in that process. So as of today, to my knowledge, there's been no restrictions in place at any of those, whether it's the state, Montgomery County, or Bolero at the bowling facility. So again, if people wish to wear a mask, by all means they can, but it is not a requirement. And again, there's no other mandates or restrictions regarding COVID. Hopefully everyone knows, but we're returning to the same venue that we've had in the past at Bolero and Bowl America in Gaithersburg. The address is here. Again, the date is this coming Sunday. Hopefully that's not a surprise to anyone. And we can get everybody there and get them rolling. So here's the basic layout of the facility. You come in, right in here is the main entrance point. You can see all the parking on this side. This is where most people park. But just so you know, there are some parking areas back along the side of the building as well. The main entrance will be right through the main door as you pull in, going straight in here, registration, check-in, and all that right there. And then we'll disperse everyone out to their assigned gathering points at the lanes to get the day started, and then get right into the opening ceremony and proceed through the competition components. Here's basically the layout of inside the lanes or inside the facility if you can. These are our designated, again, you'll see these slides, we'll send them out to you. kind of where each of the county programs will congregate at the beginning of the day. And again, that's not where you're going to be hanging out for all the days or the entire day, because then obviously you'll be going to the lanes where the competitors will be assigned. So again, you'll see the slides. You can communicate this to the members of your delegation. One of the things that's new, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but we're doing a different style serving of lunch, if you will. So at this point, we kind of want the tables and stuff that are right behind the lanes in the spectator area, if you will. We're going to do an assessment of that, but wanted to let everyone know that those are going to be primarily reserved for the athletes and competitors once they get done with their 3 games to go back to that area to eat their lunch. Depending on the lanes, there are tables down in the lanes that can seat about 5 people, give or take. So those individuals will also need to come back up to those tables in order to eat their lunch after their 3 games have concluded. So again, just make sure that you guys as coaches can help us monitor that in the morning, and especially, you know, if we do allow a few people to sit up there during some of the competition, that we get them to move away when we get close to that point when we start going to lunch.
Okay. And folks, we'll have signs printed and placed there on each table to remind folks of that.
Yeah. So again, just appreciate your all's patience and support in that endeavor. It's going to take all of us to make sure that the competition and the operations run smoothly, and you guys as coaches are part of that operation process. So we appreciate you helping us out with that. So here's the basic schedule. Again, really no changes from what you saw at the regional competitions. So the head coach will arrive 8:45, or whoever you designate to be your lead person to check in. And make sure you get there before your bowlers do. It's going to be your responsibility, or whoever you designate, their responsibility to meet the athletes as they arrive. So we're not going to be doing any individual check-ins. We're going to be like, hey, find your coach. So you guys really get there early, be prepared, get your stuff, get to your designated area, and meet all of your competitors for the day. Opening ceremony will hit right there at 10 o'clock. Again, I think at 1 or 2 of the facilities during the regional tournaments, if everyone is present and accounted for, and we are able to, we may start a little earlier. Don't count on it, but if that opportunity presents itself, we may do that. Right after the opening ceremony, same thing, we'll go right into those warm-ups. 10:30 competition will begin. And as the competition's in, the 3 games are over, that's when we'll start to escort athletes to the buffet lines to get their lunch and then return to their lanes. We'll ask coaches and volunteers to assist with that as well. And then obviously we're looking to do awards when available, and when we have the results ready to go. Most likely they'll be there in the center lanes, and those will be done on an escorted basis. So it's not, hey, once you're done, go ahead and head over there. Wait at your lanes till someone comes and gets you. On-site registration, again, like as normal, you'll walk into the main entrance. You'll pick up your delegation packet that has your printouts, your labels, your credentials, a refresher of the lane assignments and all that information. Again, like I said, arrive early so you can meet your athletes and partners, etc. there. And once again, we'll stress that when you go to your location for meeting your athletes, that's just for that morning time period after openings or right before opening ceremony. Get the athletes and competitors to their assigned lanes. So once opening ceremony is done, we start right into the warm-up and get right into competition. Okay. The one thing there is, I know we've had at least one email that we just received 5 minutes before the presentation tonight about a scratch. Thank you for sending those. Continue to do so, but know that the lane assignments and everything have already been sent to the facility, and reports are going to be run tomorrow. So keep a list of the scratches that you've already emailed to us, and then any others that you're aware of that morning of. submit those immediately so that we can correct those on the monitors and be ready for the competition to begin on time. It's another similar, same thing that we just hit on. This is an example, same thing that you saw at the regionals. The name badge will have the athlete or competitor's name, the county program, and then the lane, as well as what division they're in. Same thing as regionals for the most part. Again, I want to thank Mike Sarnowski for helping with the lane assignments. The lane assignments will mimic pretty much what the divisions are, give or take maybe a lane or two. So it's going to be really close, and hopefully that's helpful for you guys. So anyway, so that's basically it there for the registration and everything. Again, if you have any questions at check-in, make sure you address those or ask someone at that time. If they don't have the answer, they'll track me down or Elizabeth or someone else that can provide you with an answer and make sure that we're all set and ready for the day. So again, just make sure you're not late and that everyone's there, accounted for, and submit any scratches that you may have. So again, this should not be a surprise to anybody. Our events are singles and doubles, both traditional and unified. So again, there will be division by age, gender, and then ability level as well. One thing that we continue to reiterate is ramp bowlers, whether they're assisted or unassisted, will be divisioned along with non-ramp bowlers, if you will. Again, based on the ability level of the athletes or the partners. I think Gaithersburg has plenty of ramps, but if you have a program that you utilize a bunch of ramps, make sure you bring a couple extras just in case that they're needed. I know at the regionals, a lot of people were sharing, which is fine. But again, we want to make sure that you're prepared that nothing happens in a shortage, but I don't anticipate that happening. I know that Mike also has asked for delegations and coaches, whatever, to inform us of anyone who utilizes a wheelchair, and I think that's all been communicated so that their lanes are close to where they access from the city area up to the actual lane. So appreciate that communication. Attire, again, Rich, do you want to take some of these, or you want me to hit on these? Continue. You want me to?
I can buzz through them real quick.
Okay, go for it.
Steve wanted me to be real quick, but first I'd like to say hello to Elizabeth and welcome. We have rules. Is that quick enough for you, Steve?
Good enough.
Attire, we beat this to death each and every time. The most important thing is your athletes will have their county shirt, colored shirt, and that they be wearing proper slacks that are not jeans or athletic type. They need to be more of a doctor type khaki slack. So please check with your athletes before they get loaded in the cars to head to Gaithersburg so that they have the proper attire on. Next slide.
Yeah, Rich, just want to hit on that. And I know as much as we hit on this, guys, I know there were several instances at the regionals where people came in inappropriate attire. Now, luckily, they either had a backup or they lived close enough where it was a 5-minute change, but really stress that, you know, the sweatsuits, the sweatpants, not really appropriate. You know, there could be an exception made here and there, but really stress that. We had a couple of people come in jeans and then like the sweatpants, not right. You know, we want to look professional and represent very well. So the athletes are respected and we're respected as an organization. So really stress that. I don't want to have anybody be sent home because of improper uniform.
All competitors must wear bowling shoes when on the bowling alley and headwear. There'll be no hats or rimless headwear permitted. Headphones are not permitted when bowling unless there's a note from a medical professional provided prior to the competition. So no music headphones, no baseball hats. Occasionally we do have an athlete that has a sound issue, and normally that's dealt with ahead of time. If it comes up at the event, we'll handle it there.
Yep, and to this point, I've had no communication of the need for that. So
okay. We just talked about the attire, the slacks. We can beat this to death, and we still have people show up with the wrong attire. Please check your athletes before they leave to make sure they're wearing the proper pants or slacks. There is a uniform inspection, and Debbie is very strict with the rules when it comes to the uniform slacks. So please, again, for the fourth time in the conversation tonight, make sure they have the correct slacks on. Lane courtesy is expected. Lane courtesy is where you look to the left and you look to the right to make sure the bowlers to your left and your right aren't already in position to start bowling, and then you wait your turn. I know this has been a big challenge for me over the years. I've been doing it. When an athlete sees their name up on the screen, get out of the way. It's their turn to bowl. But please explain that to your athletes that we want to have lane courtesy. It's expected, and we hope they'll abide by it. But with that, I say good luck to myself. Alternates. You want to cover this one, Steve?
Yeah, basically, we didn't have any of these in regional tournaments, so there's really going to be no alternates activated at the state level. But along with this, it's hits on another slide coming up. But make sure or let us know if there's anybody from a doubles team, whether it's traditional or unified, that if one of the individuals does not show up, that team is scratched. So again, this is just a reiteration of what we did at regionals, but activation of alternates really isn't in play at the state championships.
Handicap. We use a handicap of 100% of the difference between the bowler's average and 200. We've been doing this since 2015. It's not a change to the rule. So everybody ends up with a 200 pretty much to start the game with their average plus their handicap. We're going to bowl 3 games, and we'll be alternating lanes. I guess some programs out there don't use the pair of lanes. A bowler will bowl on one lane and continue to bowl all 12 of their frames. For the competition, bowlers will alternate between the pair of lanes that they're on. I don't know that we have any requirements to have people stay on one lane at this point. So if that comes up, we'll deal with it at the time.
And I think one of the things I'll also iterate, you see a little square up in the top right corner. We've received, and thank you so much for everyone who filled out the evaluations from the regionals. If you haven't, please do so for many reasons, but it helps us address anything moving forward. Mike, I saw you on mute.
Actually, for the regional, that evaluation has closed down, but okay. These, of course, will be opened up for the evaluation for the state championship on Sunday afternoon, as soon as we're done competition.
Gotcha. So one of the things that we saw in the evaluations, I don't know, I haven't looked at them closely, but I know Mike has looked at those. There were some things there, I don't want to say that were concerning, but really raised a little bit of a flag that there were people saying that they did not receive any advanced information, and they didn't understand or know anything about handicaps being used, etc. So as coaches, just please help us to inform the families through you of what we're informing you, whether it's the schedule, the use of handicap scoring, the alternating lanes, anything of that nature. We rely on you as coaches to be the voice and to share what we share with you, and then take that and disseminate it out to any family members and other members of your delegation as well, whether it's coaches, other coaches, volunteers, etc. So we really want to make sure everyone's as informed as possible coming into the event to eliminate any frustrations the day of. So again, anything you can do to help relay this information. Again, the slides will be on the coach's resource page. You will get them in an email. You can simply forward it along to your coaches or your family members, athletes, etc. Back to you, Rich.
All right, follow. Hang on a second.
Like I said, if we're delayed, Rich might be screwing it up.
No, what happens is my cell phone goes directly to my hearing aids. So all I heard was the cell phone ringing, and I couldn't even hear myself speak.
Gotcha.
Sorry, folks. The foul lines will be called at the state championship at Gaithersburg. I generally check them before we start. Go and kick a few of them to make sure the red lights come on. If an athlete fouls, a red F will appear up in the score sheet. If for some reason you get an athlete that seems to be fouling a lot and doesn't normally do it, come look for me or somebody at the front desk just to check to make sure there's not something causing it to happen. All right, so they will be counted, in which case your athlete gets a 0 for any time they cross the foul line when they deliver their ball. If they don't deliver the ball, it's not a foul. Okay, so if they still have the ball in their hand, they turn around and come back, that's not a foul. So we may need to make a score adjustment if the machine picked it up, but it shouldn't, because the ball should have to hit the pins for that to work. Bowling ramp assistance, this is another difficult area that has caused some heartburn with some coaches and has caused some athletes to be disqualified in the past. What's important to know here is the athlete, it must be their ability to direct or move the ramp and aim it and push the ball down the ramp. The athlete assistant will set the ramp up generally in the center of the bowling lane behind the foul line, so it's not crossing the foul line, and then push or assist the athlete, or the athlete will come up on their own to the ramp and either make a physical adjustment on their own or give some verbal or sign type indication on how they want the ramp aimed. What we can't have is a ramp assistant pushing the ramp, looking down the pins. This is something that we'll generally give a warning on. We'll help describe it to the assistant. However, if they continue to do it that way and it becomes the ramp assistant's score and not the athlete's score, the athlete will be disqualified.
I will say, at least up in Cumberland, we had several there, and the ramp assistants were very, very good and seemed very well knowledgeable of the situation. So kudos to those who continue to coach and train in that manner. We hope we have no issues at states.
Coaching at the state championship is allowed. However, it is not permitted in the lane area. Coaches can discuss the bowling with their athletes between frames, not between balls during a frame, and the athletes must come back to the coach, who must stay in the upper settee area, which there's, I think, one step that goes down to the bowling area. The coaches are not allowed, unless it's an extreme emergency, the athlete falls or something like that, but you're not allowed to go down there and coach and point and adjust their arms or anything. The athletes must come back to you and you can have the discussion. There's a railing between the sitting area and actually bowlers area. So, and that applies to family members as well. We can't have family members shouting over people, hey, straighten your arm out, do this, do that, do the other thing, because we'll put them on notice if they do, and if it continues, it could lead to a disqualification.
Yeah, and one thing I'll also, and we'll tell the volunteers this as well, but as coaches, what we have seen in the past is family members maybe not necessarily coaching, but speaking to the volunteers. You need to adjust this, you need to adjust that, you need to tell this athlete that score is wrong, adjust it. If there is an issue in the lanes, that's something the volunteers will come to us or whatever, but it's not the family, it's you guys as coaches, not the families, to make those adjustments or make those communications. They can communicate to you as a coach, you bring it to the volunteer or to our attention, and we'll check out the situation. But I know we've had that at several of the regionals, and that's something that we just can't continue to let happen. So just want to reiterate, families are spectators, encouragement. If there's an issue, they bring it to you as a coach. You communicate it up the ladder, if you will. So basically, again, we talked about the opening ceremony right there at 9:45. We have our MC identified. We may be looking at a few individuals there to assist with the pledge, the athlete oath, and the coach's oath. We'll handle that on site. So as coaches, if you have anybody that you want to recommend that can serve in that capacity and do it very well, represent themselves in your program well, maybe mention that at the check-in, and then we'll make a determination and make a selection there that morning of. Again, late arrivals after 9:45, we're cutting it off. Competition's going to be underway pretty much shortly thereafter. On the lanes, only the competitors, volunteers, and competition permitted. Personnel, excuse me, are permitted down on the lanes. We've hit that many times. I know there'll be some situations we have to address, but if you as coaches can help us with that in the leading up to it and during the day, we definitely appreciate it. Similar to regionals, no outside product can be brought into the facility unless you have approval from me leading up to the event. At this point, I only had one county program request that for the regionals. But again, if that's a need that you have, any extreme special dietary needs or whatever, you need to submit that to me and have my approval so that I can let the facility know. What I will tell you is, and this may be in another slide, so my apologies, but the basic menu we're looking at for the state championships is going to be, there will be gluten-free pizza available, also regular pizza, chicken tenders, salad, and a drink, most likely water for the competitors. So that's going to be the choices there for lunch. So again, special dietary needs does not mean, you know, I like McDonald's or I only eat steak. It needs to be a special dietary need. But at this time, I've heard no requests for the states. So please get those into me via email and make sure I respond so that you know I received it. Again, as we talked about, the basic plan here is we'll have a buffet. Athletes, volunteers, coach, or athletes, the volunteers on the lanes will take them up. Coaches can assist with that, but that's not until after all 3 games have been concluded. Then once they bowl their 3 games, then they can go up and start to get their food, or have coaches bring the food to them once you get what they request, whether it's the chicken or the pizza. Okay. For family members, obviously the concession stands will be open. And again, no outside product. We want to make sure that we represent well and also respect the facility and letting us use their facility and give them some business instead of other competitors in the area. Once their 3 games have concluded, the results are ready to go, posted, etc., and the awards are ready. Again, we're looking to have everyone come down once we come to your lane to get you to the awards area, which most likely will be those center lanes in the facility, and that's where the awards will be. What we don't want to have happen, guys and gals, is, hey, you're done. Go ahead, head down there to the awards, because it'll create a big cluster there and an issue as far as just too many people in one spot, and then we're not able to find the people we need. So please remain at your lanes until someone asks you to come to the awards area. Okay, really appreciate your help with that. So some follow-up things here. Again, laneman assignments, we talked about that, where they're going to be assigned based on the communication you gave to Mike in regards to those who have mobility challenges. Those have all been assigned. We'll be looking to send those out in the next day or two to you guys as coaches. They'll be in your delegation packets, etc. So again, you know, this, Mike, if you want to hit on the non-competitors as far as the delegations, I know you've
sure. Yeah, thank you to everybody who's gotten stuff in. No one is late. We need to get this information by midnight tonight. It's just, I sent out on Monday a list of the non-competitors, and the only thing we have is these are who you had registered for the regionals. And certainly not all of them, in most cases, are going to be going to the states. So asking you to let us know who from the non-competitors would be there. Have heard, actually, so as of 5 o'clock, we got one of those. Howard County got their stuff in, so that's great. So Baltimore City and Hartford, if you can just let us know. And if all of them are coming, that's fine. And then we can move forward. So if we don't get a response, we're going to scratch the volunteers and leave the coaches in, and move forward based on that. So.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. And thank you for everyone who's responded and that will respond by midnight tonight. Follow-up items, again, want to hit this again, Rich, uniforms. I think we beat that down. But again,
if your athlete doesn't show up with the proper pants, they're not bowling.
Yep. That's it, plain and simple, or shirt. But again, I think, here we talk about, make sure that you communicate this to your families, your coach, your other coaches, your other delegation members, everybody else. We really, really do look at those evaluations, and that tells us that either there's some coaches that we haven't informed or aren't getting information from us, which if that's one of you guys, feel free, we're open. Give me a holler, give me an email, say, hey, this is what I need. I didn't get this from you, or I don't see it on the coach's resource page, or I didn't get an email, or whatever. We know that happens. Just let us know. And similarly, really, really, here's a quote. I wasn't provided any information leading up to prepare my athlete to attend the regionals or whatever. So I'm assuming that's a family member. So that's the kind of stuff that we know that happens as well. And you may have done everything you can and send out your emails and make phone calls. We know that happens, but the more we can do that, the more we collectively serve the organization and serve the family, serve the competitors, to make them have a positive experience, not just that day of, but leading up to it, and inform them as much as we can. So really, really help us, help you, to help the athletes and everybody to make sure that we're doing everything we can in order to provide success to everyone there, whether it's just an experience or whether it's from a competition perspective. Mike?
Yeah, and I think everybody realizes this, but in case you don't, the coach resource page is open to the public. And if you wish to refer your family members and your athletes even there to look at this stuff, feel free to do so. You can forward to them the email that Steve will send to you tomorrow with the links and all. Several of, during the seasons when I coach myself, my athletes go to the coach resource pages all the time, particularly once we get divisions up and that type of thing. So it's there. It's mostly focused for coaches, but it's open and available to everybody else as well. So utilize that as another means to get information out to folks if you wish.
Absolutely. So again, like I said, nothing we're saying here, we post this on a website, this webinar, nothing here is secret. The more people who are knowledgeable and informed, the better we'll all be. So with that, here's some updates here. You can see Elizabeth Kramer. I will say, please don't bombard her with emails. Number one, because I don't think her email is just quite active yet. I think that goes into effect in the next couple of days. But I do want you guys to have that as we move forward, not only for you coaches from bowling leading up to next year, but also for those who may also be coaching in the additional sports that Elizabeth will take, which is swimming, cycling, kayaking, alpine skiing as the state offered sports. And then here's a list of our other sports directors, Melissa Anger and Ryan Kelchner, and the sports that they oversee. You have my email and Mike's as well. With that being said, Mike, I want to see if there's any questions that have come in through chat.
Not through chat, and I don't see any hands up, but if anybody does have a question, either if you could raise your hand, electronically raise your hand.
Pam Gross, I see you. Go ahead. If you want to unmute. Pam.
And for any other questions also, again, you can raise your hand, and George also has his up, or just type it into the chat. So okay. Go ahead, Pam, and then we'll go to George after that.
Okay. Pam, you're still muted. You're still there. There we go.
Okay. Now I can't remember my questions, guys.
Okay, we'll come back to your for
No. I remember them. I remember them.
Okay, go for it, Pam.
First of all, I know you talked about the food, and you said what was going to be on it, right?
Yes.
Do we have to send in our what our delegations? No. Okay.
No, there's no lunch order form like we've done in the past with the choice of sandwiches or whatever. The facility is prepared with making the pizzas and the chicken tenders and the salad. There's not a question about quantity needed for there. So they assured me that everything will be set.
Okay, and my athletes did very well, but the idea that they have to wait till after they bowl 3 games is fine. Okay, I understand with the food and the timing and everything like that. But some of them have a hard time when they see other athletes sitting there eating.
Yeah, I think that's just something as a coach, make sure that they have, eat a good healthy breakfast, and then just let them know, hey, you'll get your chance, and that's something you as a coach can monitor.
Yeah, they did it. They did a good job. But still.
Yeah. I should point out that for the state championship event, having them eat after the 3rd game is how we've been doing it for quite some time. We just had a bag lunch instead. So that
right.
The timing hasn't really changed. So, okay. George, Hale, if you want to unmute, and then Alice, I see you've got your hand up. We'll go after that. And then the 2 questions that are in the chat, I'll deal with after we have George and Alice.
All right. On the list of sport, I know you said fine. Does that include shooting?
George, you're breaking up. I don't know if anybody else. Could you repeat your question?
Does the Alpine include snowshoeing?
No, on the Alpine skiing will be Elizabeth, and then snowshoeing is Ryan Kelchner.
Oh, okay. I missed it.
Gotcha. Was any other question, George? All right.
No, that'll be it.
Okay, very good. We'll go with Alice.
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear. You said that the athletes will be sitting at the tables behind the lanes when they're eating. Can parents be sitting at those tables while they're bowling? Or where are the parents supposed to be sitting, or are they not going to be sitting?
That's something I hate to not give you an answer for that, Alice, and everybody else. That's something I talked with Rich. That's his home venue. And there is one table for every 2 lanes where 5 people can pretty much sit at. But then it looks like we're probably going to have the athletes, we will have the athletes come back right behind the lanes to eat their lunches there.
Right.
What is in question, or we're still kind of determining, is this is Rich and I spoke right before this meeting, to be honest with you. Would there be an allowance to allow families to be at those tables behind the lanes and then make announcements, etc., even though we're going to have reserved signs on those tables, but to make announcements at the beginning of the day, leading up to lunch, and then at lunch. It's really difficult at sometimes, once you give people permission and they can camp out, to then have them move.
Right.
So I would really appreciate you guys saying, don't plan on being at those tables. Will
there be folding chairs behind that area?
There will be chairs for spectators, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Chris, I see your hand up, but let me get the 2 questions that were in the chat first, and then we'll go to you. So Lynn asked, can we have our delegation meet us at our designated lanes? If I'm interpreting that to have them, if I forget where Carroll County is assigned, but if you're assigned to lanes 13 and 14, yes, you actually should tell them for the check-in portion, you should tell them to meet you right there. And then because you'll pick up, you as the head coach will pick up the registration packet, and you'll be distributing their name tags and such down the line, and such with that. So yeah, definitely give them the location. We'll also have signs on the tables. We usually don't do the signs at the regional tournaments because there's so few delegations at a given location. We may change that based on feedback, but we'll definitely have a sign at each of the tables for your delegation to help folks see it and locate it as well. Okay. And then Jean from Calvert asked, can you include the menu options in writing so I can share? Question one, sure. Steve can include that in the email that covers, or that sends you the link, as well as the the stuff is posted. And then, can families bring chairs? Steve, you want to address that? We talked about that before, I think.
Yeah, they have been allowed to bring in chairs before. Rich, correct me if I'm wrong. Not a problem there, as long as they're not big, bulky chairs. You're basically your fold up little camping chair. But we will have chairs. What I would prefer them do is leave them in their car and use the facility chairs unless we feel a need that there's additional chairs needed, which I don't think there will be, but they can definitely bring their chairs. As long as
I'm not bringing my lazy boy. Is that what you're saying?
You're not bringing your lazy boy and your recliner. No.
Okay.
And then just to reiterate, the menu option is very simple. It's chicken tenders or pizza. Yeah. Both of those selections will come with a salad.
Yeah.
But I'll be sure, Elizabeth, you make a note to make sure I don't forget to send that out in my email tomorrow.
Okay. Chris from Baltimore City.
Sorry, I had to finally unmute on my phone. I'm not used to using my phone. Mike, since we got called out and are embarrassed that we haven't told you about our non-competitors yet, and I'm all red-faced and crying. That's why I'm not on the video. We have two members who aren't competitors in our delegation. Yeah. I'm going to be there. Sonny won't make it.
Okay.
I'm not going to write you now. That's it.
That's fine. That takes care
it's
of
just,
it.
It's just me. You get to see my smiling face come Sunday.
That's great. We were sad when you and PJ couldn't make it at the regional. So
we still have effects of how sick we were, and it wasn't COVID. Wow. It wasn't the flu. It's whatever was going around. But I'm not contagious. I've been back to work. He's been back to his program. But he's not coming Sunday, so it'll be easier for me.
Yep. Okay. And I know Chris was joking with that, but no one is late. So it was just a friendly reminder there. Alice, your hand is up. Was that from before, or do you have another question?
I think I read her lips saying that was from before.
Okay, great. As far as I can tell, that is all the questions and hands that were raised. So thank you very much. And before Steve does a final thank you, I'll thank you. Great season. We're still continuing to get closer to back to normal, quote unquote, operations. And truly appreciate everything you've done with your athletes and with your program to get folks this far, and looking forward to seeing you. Also should say, Steve, just as an aside, every one of our areas who will be with us on Saturday has a representative here on the line. So
very good. So just to reiterate, from Mike's perspective, thank you. All the coaches for what you've done throughout the season, through the regionals, through your preparations for the state championships. Please, please, please share the information with your families, your other coaches, your volunteers from your program, the athletes, the partners, the teammates, and please, please, please stress the uniforms. But really also want to acknowledge it's a great pleasure. I've only seen Elizabeth for about maybe an hour today, and then this webinar, and then she's on our webinar following this with Alpine skiing, so she's putting in a full day on her first day. But really a pleasure to have you join the team, Elizabeth. I'm sure all of you coaches will introduce yourselves, get to know her. A blessing to have on the Special Mixed Maryland team. And thank you, Rich, for joining and leading tonight as well. Other than that, guys, we're coming up on the state championships. Let's end it well. Let's do everything we can to have a great collaborative effort to finish strong and have a success and a very awesome final event here. So any questions in the meantime, don't hesitate to email me. If you don't, because we're only a couple of days away, if you don't get a response from me within 24 hours, call me. If you don't have my cell number, too bad. No, if you don't have my cell number, continue to email me. I will respond. If you don't get a response, that just means I'm either backed up or it's gotten lost in the mail. So, but really, thank you guys, and appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing everybody on Sunday.
Yahoo.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.